Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I hope you're all doing well. Many of you may already be familiar with BoldSign. BoldSign is an easy to use e-signature platform that helps you to send, sign and manage documents quickly, securely and without the usual hassle. So today's session is all about form fields in BoldSign. So why is this important? Well, think about it. Whether you are capturing name, initials, job titles or date, choosing the right form fields makes it simple and intuitive for your signers to complete documents. Using the wrong fields or omitting key ones can delay the signing process and create unnecessary back and forth. That's why today's session is designed to help you set up form fields in the best possible way so your agreements are completed faster and with greater confidence. I'm Harini and I work as a software developer for BoldSign at Syncfusion. Here is what we are going to cover. First, we will start with the different type of fields available in BoldSign and when to use each one and configure their properties. Then you will learn how to add rules and validations so signer can't skip or enter incorrect data. And finally, we'll set up a formula field so you can see automatic calculations in action. So we'll have a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. Our team is here to help you. Now it's time for a demo. Let's see everything in action. I switch to the BoldSign dashboard. Now to explain fields in a better possible way, let's walk through a scenario. I run a bike rental shop and need a customer to sign my rental agreement. Here is the template I'll use. Let's see how we can do this. I proceed to create a new document and upload the agreement and add the renter's details like name and email and proceed. Now I'm gonna set up form field for this document. First, I start by adding a signature field, the primary field for collecting a signer signature on any document. If you need the signer's initials as well, add an initials field wherever required. Now let's look at automatic fields which will fill in the details during the signing. First, I add the date sign field. So this automatic read-only field captures the exact date of the renter signs and this cannot be modified at the time of signing, which guarantees the agreement remains tamper-proof. Here you have options to change the date format, and in time format you can add hours, seconds, minutes and add AM or PM designator. You can customize the font of the date such as changing the font style, adjusting the font size, making it bold, italic or underline. So you can also set the font color to match your preferences. Next, I don't want my renter to manually enter their name and email, so I add the name and email fields. The name field is automatically filled with the recipient's name, and similarly the email field is auto-populated with the recipient's email address. The name field can be edited by the signer if needed, but you can set it to read only so the signer can view the field values without being able to modify them. And here you can customize the font of the name field. And this email field cannot be edited, and you can also customize the font of this email field. Next, I add the job title and company fields. Since my renter has a BoldSign account, these fields will be filled automatically from their profile at the time of signing. If your signer doesn't have a BoldSign account, the fields will stay empty and they need to type in the details themselves. Next, let's look at the data fields where signers enter their information. I need my renter to provide the address. I add a text box for that and resize it to fit properly. We could also add hint text like enter your address, so it'll be clear what renter needs to type. And here you have the options to customize the font of the text box. And I set the fixed character limit of 200 for the address field, so the renters can type up to 200 characters, just enough for a full address without going overboard. And here you can choose how the text box resizes based on the content. So by default it grows vertically, so the height adjusts as more the text is entered. If you switch to horizontal resizing, the width expands instead. You can also set it to grow in both directions or keep it fixed. So there is also an option to resize the font automatically. So that way if the text gets too long, the font size shrinks to make everything fit nicely. I also add a text box for the city field and add a hint text. So by default these fields are marked required. So my renter cannot skip these fields when signing the document. So next my renter needs to fill in the state, not just here but in a few other places. I am adding a drop down field for the state and I add a hint text so it's clear what they need to do. Then I go ahead and add the values. And the nice part, you can simply drag and drop to rearrange the options any way you want. If you want, you can even set a default selection so the renter doesn't have to choose every time. I am adding a similar drop downs in other section as well. Usually, if you leave it like this, the renter will need to manually select the state in each spot, here, here and here. To make things easier, BoldSign offers a data synchronization feature. This means you can replicate the value from one form field across multiple fields automatically. I am setting up this for my renter to save them time and effort. To do that, I am tagging it with a data sync value, let's say state. Then I go ahead and apply that same tag to all other dropdowns where I want the same value to show up. Now as you can see, when I select a state from this drop down, it updates all the linked fields. Simple, right? Same if I select from this drop down, it gets reflected in all other fields. I hope this feature will be useful for you in many cases. Next, I'm going to add a text box field for the zip code. Since renter can enter any text in the text box, I'm going to restrict the input to numbers and hyphens only. So it should accept either a 5-digit zip code or the 9-digit zip plus 4 format with a hyphen. To enforce this, I enable regex validation on the text box and enter the pattern and add a description to guide users. Again for driver's license number, I add a text box and set the regex validation. And here I am going to restrict input to letters and number only and set the description. So to capture the renter period, I add two editable date fields, one for the start date and one for the end date. So you can change the default date format, set the default date, and here you can also choose the date range, allowing signers to select the date from that range. Next, I need to know whether my renter's license has ever been suspended. To capture this, I'll add a radio button field with two options, yes and no. So only one option can be selected. In the radio button settings, I can configure the options and choose which one is selected by default. And I adjust the button size. So below that, I'll place a text box for the suspension reason. Here, I want the text box to show up only when the renter selects yes. So to make that happen, I select the radio button and create a conditional logic. So when option 1 is selected, I select the text box to show and I just apply this rule. So in the preview, it works just as expected. So choosing yes reveals the text box and while selecting no, keeps it hidden. Similarly, you can apply conditional logic to checkbox, radio buttons and drop-down fields to control when certain elements appear. Next, I need my renter to attach their driver's license. To do this, I'll add an attachment field and give it a title. Here you can select which file types to accept. Once the signer completes the document, you'll be able to download any attachments they have uploaded. So next, I need to collect the renter's photo. For that, I add an image field and set its title. You can restrict the field to accept only these formats. So this way the renters can easily attach their photo directly within the agreement. Just like a signature field, the image stays embedded in the document and cannot be downloaded separately. It becomes the part of the agreement itself. So we ask renters to upload a photo along with a valid ID to help confirm their identity and keep accurate records. So it's a small step that adds extra security. And if the bike is ever lost, damaged or misused, having a photo on the file helps us sort things out quickly and fairly for everyone. Next, I'm going to add a checkbox for the renter to agree to the terms. If you have multiple options, group your checkboxes so users can select all that apply. In the settings, you can add as many checkbox options as you need, and you can also choose which boxes are checked by default. And you can adjust the size of the checkboxes. Next, you can add a hyperlink field to include a URL. So use it to link to your official website's terms of use page. And in the field settings, specify the display text and enter the URL. You can customize the display text font here. And next is the label field. It lets you to display static read-only text or values on your form without requiring user input, and it's useful for section headings or descriptions or adding instructions or disclaimers. So here you can customize the label font and background color. So far we have covered synchronization, validation and conditional logic, and now we are going to look at calculations using formula fields. So I add the text box for the rent per day rate and make it static by marking it read only. I set an ID and its value to 500, and I also restrict its input type to number so it accepts only numerical values, ensuring it's ready for calculations. Next, I'll calculate the total rental days and total cost using formula fields. First, I add a formula field for total days, give it an ID. Now I use the date difference function to calculate the number of days between the start date and the end date by passing them as arguments, and close the parenthesis. And I'm adding +1 to count the start date. You can refer to this link for more details on supported functions and operators. I save the formula. Next, I add a formula for the total cost by multiplying the total days with the rent per day rate. Next, you can control the tab order by assigning tab index values in form fields. So set tab index to -1 on labels or instructional text to remove them from the focus flow. Then assign sequential values to your input fields. So when I press tab, the focus moves in that numerical order. This is especially useful when your form uses a multiple column layout and you need to navigate through each column logically. We have now covered all form fields including data synchronization, validation, conditional logic and formula based calculations. I'll now proceed to send the document for signing. Now let's see how my renter signs the document. And this is the email which she received for signing the document. So I agree to the terms and proceed to sign the document. As you can see, the name, email, title, company or fields are pre-filled. I then add the address and city. And select state. So it automatically updates its value to its linked fields. Next, I enter the zip code and the license number. I select the rentals period start and end date, and our formula calculates and displays the result. When I choose yes, the conditional reason text box appear. I attach driver's license and upload a photo. I then proceed to sign the document. Now the document has been signed successfully and it's in a completed state. You can download the completed documents and attachments by selecting the completed document. So with that, we wrap up today's session. I hope this session gave you a clear understanding of form fields in BoldSign. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat session. We are ready to help. Before we wrap up, if you would like to stay updated on the latest features, tips, and product news from BoldSign, be sure to follow us on social media. We regularly share updates, how-to videos, and helpful content across all platforms. Just search for BoldSign or Syncfusion and hit that follow or subscribe button. Thank you all once again for being part of today's session. If you have not tried BoldSign yet, I highly recommend signing up and exploring the form fields. It's super easy to get started, and if you have any questions after today's session, please feel free to reach out our support team anytime via email or live chat. Have a great weekend everyone. Thank you.